Hey guys, this is SyedaZaidi, and today I'm going to be talking about lesson 9.4 in pre-calculus. Now 9.4 is mostly a topic about induction. Induction is meaning of, I guess you could say, adding a substitution in the equation and then try solving it. There's other ways too that would mean it in inductions, but in this kind of course, we're going to be talking about most of substitution of what we're going to be substituting and mostly find the differences of equations, but I'm not sure how to explain that clearly to you guys, so we're going to have to, you guys are going to have to figure out when I do the problems. But yes, this is about induction, and I'm gonna give you a small, very small review about what Pn and what pk plus 1 is, all of those things, and just explain in a various amounts that you guys will understand why. So you see that the principle of mathematical induction. Now this is basically I couldn't even fit the whole thing, but this is just a title for what this whole thing is about. Okay, so basically let Pn be a statement include be a statement involving the positive integer. So what this means is that they're saying that Pn is the positive statement. So it's like statement isn't positive, but there is Pn will be like an equation that you have to solve in order to find out what it is. It's kind of like an example of that. But it's also going to be involving the positive integer n into the equation. So it's kind of like that. Okay, so the next part is that the first step is that P1 is true and number 2, for every positive integer k, so k is one of the alphabets that we're going to be familiar with. Pk implies to pk plus 1, then the statement Pn must be true for all positive integers. Now, this is kind of like a confusing way because there's like, why is there so many alphabets in this explanation? But so basically what it's saying is that whenever there's a positive integer k, now listen, pk is what the statement is going to give you. Okay, Pn, pk is basically the situation or the equation that's going to give you when you're in a math test or whatever. Okay, it's going to give you like a problem, like equation, and you're going to have to look at the problem and try, how do we do this, step-by-step processes. Basically pk actually implies to pk plus 1. So when you're doing the equation, you only say pk equals to 5 over 4x, let's say that, or 5 or 4 or something, right? Or yeah, so what it's going to tell you is that, or actually it would have k involved in the equation, but okay, you know what, let me make it easy for it. Let's do 5k plus 4 over 4. Okay. So pk plus 1 will be that you have to substitute k plus 1 in the k that you have written, or in the k that is written on the equation. So it'd be like 5k. So the normal equation is 5k plus 1 over 4. 5k plus 4 over 4, right? So what we're going to do is, since it applies to pk plus 1, that means that you're going to do 5, and then parentheses k, you're going to be substituting something for k. Okay? pk plus 1, parentheses, plus 4 over 4. So you see how this is going out now? It's really confusing at first because maybe my explanation is not really working for you guys, but when you see the equation, I'll tell you, when I solve the problems, I'll tell you how that goes step by step, okay? This is just a review and what you should mostly know about, but yeah, we're gonna get started in the equations now. Okay, so now in this problem it says find pk plus 1 for the given pk. Now pk, and I told you that when I say pk, that means that that's the equation that they're giving you, okay? So basically, if I'm pk plus 1 for the given pk, given pk means that's the equation that they already provided, which is this one. This is the equation that we're going to try solving for, okay? And now they said to find pk plus 1. Find it. Okay, so let's see what we can do. So pk plus 1. Now this is involving pk plus 1. Now remember when I talked about in the previously I talked about how you have to substitute k plus 1 to k, right? So now listen, the first step is to read the question. Say find pk. Now sometimes it might be the opposite, you never know, so you really need to read it and before you start solving. So find pk plus 1 for the given pk. Now you read that, okay? Now what you're gonna do now is like you're gonna look at the equation. You're like, okay, k is right there, so then you're gonna be substituting k plus 1. So it's gonna be like, okay, so let's say pk plus 1, so let's do 5 7 k plus 1 plus 4. It's a big step, but what I'm saying is that you need to involve the whole thing. You can't just involve k. That's not going to do anything. That's going to give you a wrong answer. If you just involve 7, if you think that, okay, listen, some people actually do this mistake a lot of times. Now this is the original equation, right? Now when it says pk plus 1, right, the people sometimes just do this, 1 plus 4. No, that is totally wrong. Not right at all. It actually should involve k in the problem. It should be k plus 1, the whole thing, guys, the whole thing. You can't leave out anything. Just k plus 1 plus 4, or whatever that's involving next, okay? If it's at like minus 4, or if it's at example, now you can't do this. You can't do 7k plus 1 plus 4. That's not gonna make any sense because you actually need to because 7 is actually out, right? It's like one sum. It's not like the whole thing, right? So don't just think that, okay, well, if it says k plus 1 and k is in a denominator, that means that everything has to be plus. No, that's wrong. If it has a parenthesis, if it has, listen, if the denominator has the whole thing as a parenthesis, that means yes, you will involve that. So it's going to be like k plus, example, if it was k plus 2, right? Then it would be like 5k plus 1 plus 2. And so on, whatever equation comes in your mind, whatever question comes into your math test or something. Okay, so let me just erase everything that I showed you guys as an example. So that's the only right way to solve or to substitute k plus 1 is the one I just showed you guys. This one. This is the correct way to do it, okay? Trust me. Then you're going to try basically substituting. So 7k plus 7 plus 28. So let's do 7k. So basically distribute everything that the 7 is providing for. So 7k plus 7 plus 28. You can actually, I think you can turn it in like this, but it's actually better to do the whole, to actually simplify the whole thing because sometimes there might be some confusion that the math test won't accept. So it's easier to just simplify it at the end when it's all simplified. So basically it would be like 7k plus 7 plus 28. That means that 7x. Okay, so 7k. Okay. So basically it'd be 7k plus 35 for me since I simplified the problem right here, and when I do simplify it would be this. Now this will be your answer. This is actually your answer for this problem, and this is how you solve it step by step. So like first step is looking at the equation, okay? Look, identify the k. Identify k. Then you just you just start, thinking about how you're gonna substitute k plus 1 to k, and then you do that, right? And then so on, just start solving, and that's it. You only have 2 steps to do, and that's all. Okay, so this problem involves many steps, but you will actually figure it out when I show you guys how these steps work. Now in this problem, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of steps throughout the when you're solving the answer for the whole thing. So basically in this problem, you're gonna have to find the 6 terms of the sequence beginning with the given term. So first, now 6 terms are, remember, is A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, okay? Those are 6 terms we have to find. And then we have to find the first differences and second differences and basically all that. Now, when I tell you guys about the first and second differences, you will see what I mean when I'm doing the equation. I'll explain it to you guys in a minute while I'm solving the problem. Okay, so the first step we're going to be doing is finding the terms. Now, actually no. Let's look at the equation. First step is actually looking at the equation. Read it, try analyzing it, and try understanding what the equations mean. Well, A1 equals to 1. Okay, now if you think about it, the terms they're asking are 6 terms, starting from A1 to A6. That means that they already solved for A1. They already solved for A1. That means you don't need to solve for A1 at all because they already solved it for you, right? And then it says AN equals to AN minus 1 plus 5. That means that we're probably gonna be using this problem in order to find the other 6 terms. So yeah, we're actually gonna be using this problem, or actually this equation, in order to find the other 6 terms. But since they actually found the answer for A1 already by using this equation. But we're going to be using the equation for finding the other 5 terms, which are A2, A3, A4, A5, okay? And A6, sorry. So let's start with the 6 terms first. So A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, and A6. Now, each of them have a different answer. Most of the time they do. Okay, so let's start with A1. A1 is already 1. You got that. Okay, it's already there. It was already given to you actually. So it made it simpler for you guys to just skip to A2, you know. Okay, so A1 is equal to 1. Alright, we got that. Now A2. Now how are we gonna solve this? Now if you think about it, AN minus 1. Now AN minus 1, that means you're gonna be subtracting the given term. So A2, now this is A2 minus 1 plus 5. Now, how are we gonna solve this? Now, let's say that it's so confusing because there's nothing to solve since like it doesn't make any sense. We're just like, okay, where's the other sum to add 5 to, right? This is where the kind of confusion goes, but not really. If you think about it, 2 minus 1 is 1, so it's just gonna be A1. Now A1, if you think about it, it's gonna be A1 plus 5. But listen, we're not done yet. This is not gonna. And the answer is not A1 plus 5. That's not complete. That's literally incomplete, right? It's incomplete. So A1, if you think about what we did in the first step, is looking at A1. A1 is already given to you. That means you're going to add A1 over here. Because listen, we can't use A2 because, well, there's nothing for A2 that we haven't solved yet. And besides, it says n minus 1. You just subtract it. So that's why it turned to A1 and then you plus 5. Same going with the other problem. Same going with the other steps. And then you're going to think about, okay, analyze it. You're going to think about, okay, A1 was already given to me. So that means I have to substitute 1 to A plus 5. So 1 plus 5 equals to 6. And that's the first problem, or that's the second. This is the second term. So A2 equal to 6. It's kind of confusing because you use A1, right? So it should and so some people will be like, okay, why can't we A1 equal to 6? Because we solve for A1 basically. Well, if you think about it, we actually solved for A2 because we had to subtract it first. That's why it was into A1. Okay. Now A3 is the same. Now listen, this is a same step over and over again until you reach the end, which is A6. A6 is the last one we have to find out. You can't go on. If you want to go forward, you can, but if you're just going to be wasting your time because it's only asking for A1 to A6. Only asking for 6 terms at all, okay? Now, A3. So, A3 minus 1 plus 5. So, I'm going to just hurry up and, actually, I'm not going to be doing the whole step since I already showed you the first step. So, let's just do it short steps now for me, okay? So A3 minus 1 is 4. 2. So A2 was 6, right? So then it would be 6 plus 5. And I see what I did there. Now A3 minus 1 is 2. So it would be equal to A2. So A2, listen, A2 A2 was equal to 6 in the A2 term. That means we substitute A2 from here. 6 plus 5. Now listen, 5 is the same because there's no changing 5. You're basically going to be adding 5, right? Because in the problem it says you have to add 5. So it's not going to change 5 at all. It's just going to be the same, okay? So 6 plus 5 equals to 11. A4, so A4 minus 1 plus 5. 4 minus 1 is 3, so A3 is actually 11. So we're going to be doing 11 plus 5, and that equals to 16. A5 minus 1 plus 5. So A5 minus 1 plus 5 equals to, well, A5 minus 1 is A4. Oh, so A4, right? So A4 is 16. So 16 plus 5 equals to 21. And then we have A6. Now this is the last term you have to do. So A6 minus 1 plus 5. Now 6 minus 1 is A5. So A5 equals to what? 21, right? So it'll be equal to 21 plus 5, which is 26. Now, as you see with the problems, you can kind of see that they're kind of going linear because of how it's going. It's like adding 5 in each. It's basically adding 5 because you're basically adding 5 with the whole thing, right? So you're adding 5, like 6 plus 5 is 11, 11 plus 5 is 16, 16 plus 5 is 21, and then so on, okay? Now, I filled the whole thing, but this is the terms that we have to know about, or this is how you solve with the terms. It's kind of confusing at first, but if you think about it, and if you kind of like deep think about it, you will see that it actually does make sense. So let me just write what the sequence is. So this is the sequence. So it'll be 6, 11, 16, 21, and 26. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1. Oh, I almost forgot. I was like, where is the 6th term? But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, remember, always involve 1, okay? Because if you don't involve 1, you will definitely get the whole thing wrong. You need to involve 1. Don't forget to add 1, because it's like, okay, we didn't even solve for 1, so why should we? Well, you should, because A1 is a part of the 6 terms. So let's just erase the whole work we did for this one, because we're going to be solving the second step. Alright, the second step is to find the first differences and the second differences, and to identify if it's if the sequence is a linear model, a quadratic model, or it's not linear or quadratic. So let's see when we have to actually figure it out. We're actually going to be figuring out what model it is when we're doing the second and first differences. So the first, now listen, AN is, we already found AN, which is this. Okay, it's basically this. So it's like 1, 6, 11, 16, 21, and 26. This is already A1. We already found A1 from doing the terms. The first difference. So the first difference is that, now let's look at between all these numbers. Now remember in the end of the first step, I talked about how you have to add 5 every time. You see how it's like 1 plus 5 is 6, 6 plus 5 is 11, 11 plus 5. So basically it'd be 5. Everything would be 5. Nothing else. It's gonna be 5, the whole thing, okay? The second difference is looking at what equals what. Okay, now this is addition. You're basically adding what equals to what. Sometimes it'll be multiplication if you think about it more. Some problems they have multiplication instead, but in this particular problem, it's gonna be addition. Now this part we actually have to subtract. So 5 minus 5 is 0. Everything is 0 because 5 minus 5 is 0, and nothing can be equal unless it's a 0. So it's just 0. And basically that's how you solve this problem. Okay, so this is their problem, and this problem is a lot complex than you think it is. But we're gonna solve through it, okay? Now, if you think it's really complex in this problem, it's kind of not, but kind of is at the same time. It gets confusing when you don't understand what they're trying to tell you. But in this problem, I made it easier for you guys to understand. So now we're gonna be going by that, okay? So 1 plus 4 plus 7 plus 10 plus dot 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 plus this is going, it's gonna continue. Plus now dot 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 means it's gonna be continuing, okay? Plus 3n minus 2 equals to n over 2 and 3n minus 1. Okay, so this one is using n's, but we have to try solving for s1. Now, when you're solving for S1, we're gonna have to do a lot of we're gonna substitute a lot of things for this one. So basically, we're gonna have to substitute 1 through n. Okay, so it's gonna be like, let's say 3 1. We're gonna have to substitute the whole thing, right? Yeah, we have to substitute the whole thing. So minus 2 equals 1 half. And then 3 1 minus 1. Now, when you solve this, when you simplify all of this, it's just gonna be 1. Oh, why did I do that? It's gonna be equal to 1 equals to 1. And if you think about 1 equals to 1 equals to 1, right? When you divide it, it's gonna be equal to 1. So this is basically our answer for S. So S1 equals to 1. Okay? Now it's pretty simple. Okay? Easy step. Now they're saying that assume that sk equals 1 plus 4 plus 7 plus 10. Now what they did is that they changed n to k. Now instead of n, now they're substituting k instead of n. Okay, they basically did the whole opposite reverse. Okay, then sk plus ak plus 1. This means that we have to add them together in order to find the equation for sak plus 1. So 1 plus, now you see how they added ak plus 1, so they did 1 plus 4 plus 7 plus 10 plus dot 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 plus parentheses 3k minus 2, another parentheses plus ak plus 1. You see how what they did there? So I forgot to put all the parentheses here because they have another parenthesis right here, but they added plus ak plus 1. That means that, okay, listen, this is just like pk. This is okay. Listen, 3k minus 2 is the given equation, right? And we're trying to find 8k plus 1. Now remember, this is just like the previous questions we did. PK example, like how we had to find PK plus 1 in the given equation, right? This is the same thing. This is literally the same thing. So the given question we have, or equation we have, is 3k minus 2. So that means if you substitute k plus 1 right here, it'd be 3k plus 1 minus 2. So it's gonna be like this: k plus 1 minus 2. That's it. You could also simplify if you want to, but for now we're just gonna leave it like that as an equation. Okay, that's ak plus 1. That's all. Now they're asking for sk plus 1, which is equal to what? Now that means you have to actually add these together. You have to add ak plus 1 together, and you have to add the given statement that I gave you already for sk. So that means that we have to add sk and ak plus 1 to find sk plus 1. Okay, so when you add them together, it's gonna give you a question or an equation of k plus 1 over 2 parentheses 3k plus 1 minus 1. So this is what's going to give you as a equation when you add them together or when you try solving it. But for now, I'm just going to give you like the answer for that, because it's an easy step process when you do it by your own, and it's not that hard to do. So I just give you the problem or the answer for what it actually is if you want to solve it by yourself. But this is the answer for this problem.